What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and this is the Moto G Power 2022, and in this video, we're going to be going over the 5 best and 5 worst things about this device. So join me as we cover a variety of different pros and cons related to this phone. Now, I know that the box does say just Moto G Power, but this is indeed the Moto G Power 2022. Now, I'm going to start by going over the top 5 best things, and then after that, we'll be going over the top 5 worst things. But keep in mind that in general, I think this is a very solid budget option from Motorola, and a lot of the cons that I will be mentioning in this video are a bit nitpicking. Now, of course, this device is a fraction of the cost of a $1,000 smartphone, for example. So you have to keep everything in perspective related to the fact that this phone is in the budget segment of the market. But starting off, this phone has a very responsive and accurate fingerprint sensor. Now, the fingerprint sensor is on the rear of the device, unlike last year's Moto G Power 2021, where the fingerprint sensor was on the power button. Now, I would have preferred that, but I am glad that the fingerprint sensor that we are getting here is nice and fast and reliable. So that's certainly a good thing. And in general, having it be on the back of the phone isn't too inconvenient. I will say, though, I do prefer it to be on the power button instead. But in general, I'm glad that they did give us a decently high quality fingerprint sensor. Now, in addition to that, we're also getting face unlock with the device. So I do appreciate that we do have multiple methods here for accessing the phone. The next feature that I'm a big fan of with the Moto G Power 2022 is that we are getting a 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, in 2022, that is becoming more and more rare, and especially as you move further up market with devices, you will see the headphone jack less and less. For example, a long time ago, the iPhones all got rid of the headphone jack, but also the top-end Samsung Galaxy devices do not have headphone jacks. Same thing with the Pixel 6 Pro, OnePlus 9, a lot of these higher-end Android phones, and even many mid-rangers at this point do not have a dedicated headphone jack. So if you are looking for a phone that has a headphone jack, then I feel like you will be happy with the Moto G Power 2022. The third pro of the Moto G Power 2022 definitely is the software. Now, with this device, we are getting Android 11, but what's nice is that we're not getting a bunch of bloatware and other junk here with the Moto G Power 2022 software. We're pretty much getting the stock Android experience here with some various Motorola apps added in, and then also some additional features built into the OS as well. But what's nice though is that the features that Motorola has added here are not gimmicks. They are genuine, useful features added on top of a pretty much stock Android interface. I definitely prefer the approach that Motorola takes towards their software compared to another brand such as OnePlus, where I feel like they're just making changes to Android just for the sake of making changes. Whereas Motorola, they take what's best about stock Android and then they just add in extra bonus features to make it even more useful. Now, another awesome thing about the Moto G Power 2022 is the battery capacity. Now, the Moto G Power series, since the beginning, has always been known for their very generous battery capacity. And the Moto G Power 2022 definitely continues that trend. So with this device, we are getting a 5,000 milliamp hour internal battery. So definitely a very large battery, and you should definitely expect to get a full day, if not 2, out of this device just from a single charge. And then for the final best thing, and of course there are many others that I can't include in this video for the sake of time, but the final best thing about the Moto G Power 2022 definitely has to be the storage. So for this generation of the phone, they're now giving us 64 gigabytes of internal storage compared to last year's model where we only got 32. Now, I'm definitely a big fan of that, but in addition to that, we're still getting microSD card expansion. So if you do want to add a microSD card to the phone, then you will be able to offload your various photos and videos, which frees up even more internal storage on this device. Now, since getting the phone, I have installed a variety of my favorite applications and taken some photos and videos, and you can see that I have used 20.83 of the 64 gigabytes that we do get here. So if this phone had gotten 32 gigs of internal storage instead, then we'd only have about 12 gigs remaining on the phone. But instead, we've only used 33% of the total storage so far. So I'm definitely glad that we are getting 64 gigs of internal storage here with the phone. And I'm hoping that As this phone makes its way over to other carriers outside of Metro, which this is the Metro by T-Mobile version of the device, but I'm really hoping that there is no 32GB model of the device, and hopefully 64 gigs is the minimum for all versions of the Moto G Power 2022. Again, as of now, it only comes in 64 gigs, but I have no way of assuming or predicting what's going to come out in the future. Now let's get into the top 5 worst things about the Moto G Power 2022. And the first one is the display. Now, in general, this display is not bad, but there is room for improvement. I feel like they should have given this phone a 1080p display instead of 720p. At this point, in 2022, I can't imagine it would cost them that much more to give us 1080p. And I do appreciate that they did at least give us a 90Hz display here with the phone. But again, I would have preferred 1080p instead of 720p. But I'm curious to know, is that important to you? Do you wish this phone had 1080p instead of 720p for the display? Or in general, are you happy with it? Definitely let me know. The second worst thing about the Moto G Power 2022 is that there is no ultra-wide-angle camera. Now with this device, we are getting a 50 megapixel main camera, which is pretty good. I do appreciate that we are getting a solid main camera, especially for a budget phone. But in addition to that, we're just getting a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera and a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. I really wish we would have at least gotten a 8 megapixel ultra wide with this phone, but again, there is no ultra wide angle camera, and for many people, they don't even use the ultra wide angle camera on the phone that they have. But if you are someone who is used to using the ultra wide camera, then just know that you're not getting it here with the Moto G Power 2022. And if you do end up getting this phone, then you might later on regret it if you're not able to take ultra wide angle photos. The third worst thing about the Moto G Power 2022 is that there is no NFC. So NFC is the technology that makes it possible to make mobile contactless payments with your smartphone, and that typically is a feature that is found with more premium Android phones, and of course, all the various iPhones have NFC, which gives them the ability to do Apple Pay. But I feel like at this point, NFC has been around for so long, and I know that it doesn't cost very much to incorporate into a phone. And since it is something that is more popular now than ever, I really think they should have included it here. So if you are someone that does like to make mobile contactless payments with your current phone, for example, just know that you probably will be disappointed that you won't be able to use that feature with the Moto G Power 2022. The fourth worst thing about the Moto G Power 2022 is that there is no 4K video recording. Now I understand that the display on this phone is not even 1080p, so why should we care about 4K video recording? And the purpose of taking video most of the time on your device isn't necessarily just to view it on the display of the actual phone that took the video. Nowadays, people are uploading more video than ever on social media, or if you're just trying to document something for the sake of memories, whether it's a vacation you're going on or maybe some sort of event, it does come in handy to be able to take 4K video, because if you want to put that video on your TV, for example, then you can view it at 4K. And I know that pretty much all new smart TVs at this point, at least anything mid-range and above, are 4K. So at least we can take 1080p video with the phone, which is nice, but I really do wish that we did get 4K video recording as well. And then finally, for the last worst thing about the Moto G Power 2022, that is the build materials. So this phone is not a cheap phone by any means. It doesn't feel low quality, but it is made completely out of plastic besides the display, which is made out of glass. So it looks nice and everything, but I can definitely see how this plastic back and sides can get very scratched up as time goes on. So I definitely recommend pairing your Moto G Power 2022, whether it's a clear case so that you can still see the texture on the back of the phone, or maybe a more durable, bulkier case. I definitely recommend getting at least some sort of case so that the phone doesn't get scratched, because I have a feeling this plastic is very susceptible to being scratched. But these are the 5 best and 5 worst things about the Moto G Power 2022. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it to be helpful and informative. And if you liked it, definitely give it a thumbs up, and stay tuned for more Moto G Power 2022 content here in the channel all throughout this year. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next video.